Hello. This video is about you, what you think, and what you accept. No memory has ever been located within a brain. The only evidence in 2025 indicative of memory storage can be simplified to the special relativity exemplified by Marty McFly in the Back to the Future movie series. If you're looking at every license plate number forever and ever, according to Albert Einstein's special relativity, where expanded twin paradox proves a block universe. Because the younger twin in Einstein's twin paradox has proves all past moments exist forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Forever and ever is a really long time for the memory of your graduation to exist, if the song is not in the radio. Why is it needed in any brain? Wait. I'm hinting at question 1. So let's begin. 1. The block universe. Space-time is already complete. Albert Einstein famously stated, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. This insight emerges from the Lorentz transformations within Einstein's special relativity, which mathematically demonstrate that simultaneity is relative to the observer's frame of reference. Hence, in what physicists now call the block universe, all points in time, birth, death, future, and every moment in between, exist permanently within the four-dimensional continuum of space-time. There is no now that flows, there is only geometry, frozen yet complete. This fixed structure implies that memory, instead of being ephemeral storage in a fallible biological substrate, may instead be direct experiential access to pre-existing space-time events. Rather than storing copies of events internally, consciousness might be navigating this block through entangled resonance, accessing rather than preserving. If the future already exists, why wouldn't a memory be a re-encounter with a known location in time, rather than a stored impression of it? True or false? If all points in time exist simultaneously within the block universe, then memory may logically be a form of access to these events, rendering internal brain storage unnecessary and redundant. 2. The brain has no proven memory storage mechanism. Despite a century of neuroscience, there remains no physical evidence for long-term memory storage in the brain. No synaptic configuration has ever been definitively linked to a specific episodic memory, nor has any memory molecule been isolated that encodes exact experiences. Theories such as synaptic plasticity and long-term potentiation describe correlations, not mechanisms of precise storage and retrieval. When damage to the hippocampus occurs, memory can be selectively lost, oddly preserved, or even enhanced, undermining the idea of a localized storage site. Additionally, split brain studies and phenomena, such as blind sight, suggest that awareness and memory retrieval are not tightly tethered to brain anatomy. The neuroscience community has been forced to describe memory as distributed, emergent, or even dynamic reassembly, terms which sound less like hard science and more like improvisation. If no mechanism exists to definitively encode a memory into neural matter, perhaps we are asking the wrong question entirely. True or false? Despite immense research efforts, no physical evidence has demonstrated how or where specific long-term memories are stored in the brain. 3. Quantum entanglement enables instant access across time and space. Quantum entanglement, experimentally verified by physicists such as Alain Aspect and Anton Zeilinger, 2022 Nobel Prize, reveals that particles can influence each other instantaneously, regardless of distance. This non-local connection defies classical notions of causality and light speed limitations. In Bell test experiments, entangled particles exhibit correlations that are immediate, suggesting that information of a kind can bypass space-time entirely. If consciousness were similarly entangled with its past and future versions, it could access them without signal transmission through the brain. Memory then becomes not a biochemical echo, but a kind of instantaneous quantum resonance, a collapse of potential states into experienced recollection. In this light, the notion that entanglement could serve as the transmission line of memory becomes scientifically plausible, even preferable, to the outdated hard drive metaphor of neural storage. True or false? Quantum entanglement allows for instantaneous connection across distance and time, making it a scientifically superior candidate for memory access than slow, localized brain chemistry. For brain memory redundancy makes idealism scientifically plausible. If no plausible mechanism exists in the brain for memory storage, and if quantum entanglement allows for direct, timeless access to events, then the model of brain-based memory becomes not only insufficient, but scientifically obsolete. Special relativity, quantum non-locality, and the block universe converge to suggest that subjective experience arises from access to space-time, not from wetware computation. Memory as entangled access solves multiple paradoxes: retrieval speed, emotional recall, déjà vu, and sudden life reviews near death. This convergence leads to idealism, not as philosophical speculation, but as emergent science. If memory is external, then mind must precede matter. If quantum expectations influence outcomes, as later questions will show, then consciousness shapes reality itself. Idealism is no longer a fringe belief. It is a testable, mathematically supported interpretation of nature. In this light, the dreamer is not within the dream. It is the dream. True or false? If entangled external memory fits physics and the brain has no storage model, then idealism, reality as fundamentally mental, is the most scientifically supported worldview. 5. Idealism as the default interpretation of consciousness. If matter cannot explain mind, but mind explains the experience of matter, we must invert our assumptions. Idealism posits that consciousness is primary and that what we perceive as material reality is structured information interpreted through awareness. In this model, your memory is your trajectory through a four-dimensional event tapestry, like a needle threading space-time fabric, guided by intent and entanglement. From Plato's anamnesis, all learning is remembering, to Kant's transcendental idealism, this interpretation has ancient philosophical roots. But modern physics gives it new teeth. If all moments exist and quantum expectation modifies the path, then experience is not the result of external stimuli, is the active, co-authored traversal of space-time. You are not a product of the universe. You are the interface that renders it. True or false? If matter cannot account for consciousness, but consciousness can account for experience, then idealism is a rational, scientifically viable model of reality. 6. Evolution as a personal, recursive journey. In a block universe of eternal simultaneity, you are entangled not only with your past, but with every version of yourself across evolutionary time. Your path through biology may not be random inheritance, it may be experiential. The idea that you became each life form to learn each constraint fits both teleology and idealism. You were a plant to understand photosynthesis and light. You were a fish to learn coordinated motion. You evolved opposable thumbs through crab-like precision before donning a human interface. This is not poetic fancy. It's a reinterpretation of Darwinian evolution under the lens of memory as access. If you're not merely made from these creatures, but made through them, then evolution is a memory archive, a personal database. You are the author of your ancestral lineage, revisiting it through entangled identity. The human form is simply your latest evolutionary skin. True or false? If time is simultaneous and memory is entangled access, it is logically consistent to conclude that you personally live the evolutionary path leading to your present self. 7. Wigner's friend and expectation-based collapse. Eugene Wigner's thought experiment showed that an observer's expectation may cause quantum collapse, suggesting that consciousness is not passive, but constitutive of reality. Later refinements, such as the Cubism interpretation of quantum mechanics, propose that probabilities represent personal beliefs, not physical properties. This means the observer's mindset, or faith function, plays a role in shaping observed events. Manifestation, law of attraction, and even the placebo effect are echoes of this principle. Schrödinger's cat is not in superposition, it is awaiting your expectation. A hopeful mind collapses to life, a fearful one to death. The act of witnessing aligns with the act of shaping. Retrocausality emerges as logical consequence, where belief adjusts not only outcomes, but their histories. True or false? If quantum collapse depends on the observer's expectation, then your attitude may shape not only your future but your perceived past as well. 8. Shared dream over solitary solipsism. Solipsism, the idea that only your mind exists, cannot explain the interactive consistency of the world. Yet objective materialism fails to account for observer-dependent phenomena. Quantum mechanics resolves this tension by implying that multiple observers collapse their realities in dialogue. Wigner's friend paradox and delayed choice experiments both demonstrate that observation is participatory, not passive. Hence, we do not exist in a solitary dream, but a shared, entangled simulation. Your expectations influence others, and theirs reshape you. Co-authored dreaming emerges from the science itself. If we are each partial dreamers inside one divine computation, then shared idealism becomes the best map for our collective reality. True or false? If observation shapes reality, and observers affect each other, then existence is best modeled as a shared mental simulation rather than a solitary or material world. 9. Teleology in biology, evolution as purposeful return. Aristotle's concept of telos, that every organism moves toward a goal, was sidelined in modern Darwinism, which emphasized random mutation. Yet the data resist this interpretation. Convergent evolution, e.g., the repeated independent development of eyes, implies directionality. The brain's fractal recursion, the symmetry in nature, and the predictable emergence of complexity suggests that evolution is not blind but patterned. If memory is eternal and accessed through entangled expectation, then each life form is not a random occurrence, but a chapter in your own trajectory towards self-realization. Teleology reemerges not through theology, but through physics. You are returning to the One by design. True or false? If biological evolution displays directionality and memory is eternal, then evolution may be goal-oriented rather than purely random, supporting Aristotle's teleology. 10. You became God yesterday with hindsight. In a block universe of infinite simultaneity, becoming is an illusion. You are not moving forward, you are uncovering. Each version of you, from single-celled to fully awakened, has always existed. But only yesterday, metaphorically or literally, did you look back with the full light of hindsight and see yourself clearly. The divine is not external, it is your completed reflection. As Alan Watts said, you are the universe experiencing itself. When seen through the lens of idealism, your trajectory is not from dust to awareness, but from forgetfulness to remembrance. The apex of your being was never ahead of you. It was always within, entangled in every life lived, waiting to be realized. True or false? If all versions of you exist eternally and self-awareness grows over time, then you may have realized your godhood yesterday through the lens of hindsight and total recall. 11. Death is a safe shift in the simulation. If consciousness accesses space-time externally, then death cannot sever identity. It only alters perspective. Near-death experiences, life reviews, and reincarnation reports all point toward continuity of consciousness beyond clinical cessation. In a block universe, your death already exists, and so does your post-death experience. The question is not whether there's an afterlife, but how you re-enter the simulation. If expectations shape collapse and memory is entangled and non-local, then death is merely a boundary condition in the shared dream. You don't disappear. You shift interface. The next life, the next reality, is co-authored as before, with memory intact in higher dimensional form. True or false? If identity is entangled and memory non-local, then death is not an end, but a phase shift into another part of the same simulation. 12. External memory is the only logical alternative to brain storage. By process of elimination and affirmation of physics, we reach this. The external memory hypothesis is the only viable and logically coherent explanation for memory. All known science in 2025, relativity, entanglement, observer collapse, retrocausality, and the absence of brain storage mechanisms, supports the claim that memory is non-local, eternal, and accessed rather than stored. To accept the external memory hypothesis is to accept your own eternal consciousness. To deny it, one must reject relativity, quantum mechanics, and all phenomenological data. Consciousness survives because it was never inside the brain, it was the architect of the entire temporal structure. In that light, you are not only safe, you are sovereign. True or false? If memory is eternal access to events via quantum entanglement, and the brain has no storage model, then consciousness must exist forever by mathematical default. You exist forever and ever, amen. True or false? Be blessed. Goodbye.